Hi, Mr. Andrew. Hi, Mr. Andrew. Are you able to hear me?
Hello, you should be able to hear me now. Sorry, it's undetected earlier.
Yeah, I can see you now.
Oh, hang on, I lost your sound.
You may prepare first. Once you are ready, you will let me know. Then we will stream to Facebook Live first. Then we will start a short introduction. After that, I will pass it to you.
Give me a second here. All right. Can you try to speak something? Okay,
Hello?
I can hear now. All right. Audio is good.
Okay, please give me one moment. I stream to Facebook now. Then after that, I will start introduction. Then I will pass it to you.
Okay.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us at e-KLESF 2022. My name is Lee Won Xiang from University Tunku Abdul Rahman. Today, we are presenting a webinar titled Technology and Career in Esports by Mr. Chong Wai Lau. Mr. Chong is an eSport co-curricular instructor at Tunku Abdul Rahman University of Management and Technology, TAR UMT. Just a little housekeeping before we start. If you have any question, please type them into the chat box. We will bring them up during the Q&A session at the end of this webinar. And all participants, please sign in at your attendance link post in the chat box. Without further delay, let's turn the time over to Mr. Chong. Over to you.
Hello, I assume that I'm already live and everyone can see me. Am I correct?
Yeah, we can see you now.
Okay, cool. Okay, great. Hello everyone. So allow me to just share my screen. Give me a second. Oh man. Hang on. All of a sudden the buttons are not working. Should be as simple as share screen. Give me a second. I can't seem to click anything. Oh, hang on. Are you in control of the share screen?
We have made you as the co-host.
Okay. Oh, why is it extremely slow? Okay. All right. All right. I'm almost there. Uh, okay. Okay. Just give me a second. Apologies for the technical delay. Just trying to get it up. Okay. All right. We're about there. We're about there. Okay. Apologies. I don't know why when it gets super duper laggy when I want to share my screen. Uh, Okay, all right, we're about there. Just need this to work. And we good. All right, it should be good. I hope everyone can see, but I'll be switching to a video later. So hopefully it doesn't cause too much of a trouble. But anyway, without further ado, thank you everyone for being with us today, this morning. So my name is Andrew. It's been a while since someone introduced me with my full Chinese name, but my name, normally people call me Andrew. If not in the esports world or gaming world, people call me a Sir Cloud. But allow me to introduce myself first. So what I do personally is that I commentate esports. So I'm involved in multiple game titles. Some of you may heard of certain game titles or popular game titles like PUBG Mobile or even Mobile Legends. So I have been involved in this kind of shows and at multiple levels, whether it's local, whether it's global level or World Series or that kind of level. And besides that as well, I also partner with social medias. So I'm part of the YouTube partner program, use former Facebook partner, also partner program with TikTok as well. So these are some of the channels. I will not be sharing too much in detail about this, but we will have certain other topics that are also related to some of the social media channels as part of technology. And I actually teach in Thai UMT as well. So these are my students from my recent semester, whereby I teach esports, and part of the things that we cover is also besides just exposing about but part of the things that we cover is about esports itself, the industry, and as a player, how do you sandbox your trainings? Basically, how do you train as a pro player in esports? So we teach this kind of techniques to my students as part of a co-curricular activity. And besides that, I go around talking about esports as well. So these are some of the activities. Like on the bottom left, I just came back from Cebu a couple of weeks ago. We talked about e-commerce in esports within to the youth in Cebu. And on the bottom picture was also a this year's picture as well. That event was a masterclass about teaching some esports shoutcasting techniques towards some of those who are curious. And we also thought about the careers in esports, esports management as well within the same masterclass. And the program is run by ESI, an agency under KBS, Kementerian Belia dan Sukan. And I also write about esports as well. So I also publish my own articles. So these are some of the topics that I wrote about schools, esports exposure in school, and also how esports players should be treated as well. Yeah, so these are some of my writings. And I also coach and analyze for either professional team or in the recent SEA Games, I was the coach for Brunei for the 2022 SEA Games. But I have not been esports like forever. When I started my career, it was in a corporate company. I was in HR for more than 10 years, and these are some of the companies that I've been involved in, whether directly or indirectly. So this was majority of my career life until esports took over fully during the pandemic, and as a so-called a hobby / part-time before the pandemic, a couple of years before the pandemic. My background is as such. I'm a graduate in mass communications, and also masters in human resource management. I'm also currently pursuing my PhD as well in psychology. Right. So normally before I start, I normally like to start off with a question, because I always like to know the audience. But looking at, we are on a virtual set this time. I think Zoom, if I'm not mistaken, we are able to do the raise hand feature, if I'm not mistaken, if I got it correctly. So, but if not, that's fine. I like to hear from the chat as well. Like how many of you, like within the chat, can put it in the chat, like how many of you do not know what esports is, and how many of you do know what esports is? Okay, like how many of you like do not know what esports is? Maybe you can give me a number one that you do not know esports. Number two means you do know what is esports, so that I kind of know like how's everyone's feelings today. So number two, you do know, Xiao. Okay, Kayet says one. So do not know. Okay, that's fine. Mikiko knows. All right. Okay, so those are a couple of responses. So we got a couple of twos here. So Jackson says two, Kevin says two. So again, number two represents that you know what esports is about. Number one represents that you do not know what esports is about. Okay, BS says two. So yes, knows what is esports about. Okay, great. Okay, cool. All right. So it sounds like majority of you do know. So okay, cool. And how many of you have considered a career within esports? Maybe just give me a yes in case you have considered, or a no if you have not considered a career in esports. Mikiko, alpha beta public testing for wargaming.net. Oh, perfect. Right. So he definitely knows his stuff there. So Kevin has considered a career in esports too. Xiao have considered a career in esports. Okay. All right, we got a couple of yeses here. All right. So for those of you who have answered yes, right, especially Kevin and Xiao, right, I'd like to know, like, when you say yes, which area have you considered to be involved in esports in? Like what type of role have you considered for yourself? Wait a second. This Kevin, I know. Okay. The moment you say Blitz, right? This Kevin, I know. Okay, you okay, you're not counted. You're not counted. Okay, any other answers just for me to get a feel? Pro player? Okay, yeah, fair enough. That's cool. All right. So especially to Xiao, right? So now I'm curious right now. So what's your game? Okay, this Kevin I know. So PUBG Mobile. Okay, interesting. All right, cool. Okay, cool. All right. So just for me to gauge. All right. So I normally like to ask the last question, but I know in the chat is a little bit difficult. But if anyone would like to answer the last question, like what would you like to learn today? Of course, our main topic is about technology and careers in esports, but is there anything else in specific that you would like to learn? Hopefully, I'll be able to cover that topic as well. Oh, okay. Right. Because using the okay. So now I know which Zell is this already from Sabah. Okay, feel free to answer the question, the final question as we go along. Oh, Mickey, how did I make the transition from a career in HR to esports? Okay, thank you. I prefer to make this as interactive as possible, so at least I know that I'm not talking alone. So thank you, Mikiko, for the question. So how did I make that career transition? Okay, actually, it wasn't a how should I put it? It wasn't a planned career transition, I would say. But it was kind of accidental. So maybe I just start with a little bit of backstory. So when I was working in HR, back in the day, right? I had I had a regular 9 to 5 job and all that. So you know that financially, like for me personally, I know that I'm financially okay. Back then in the end of 2018, I actually kind of started getting into the modern esports. If you talk about like previous esports, I was already playing. I actually played tournaments like in the year 2000. Yes, I'm not that young. I actually played tournaments in the year 2000 onwards already. A few tournaments here and there. That time there was no term esports yet, but just to cut that short, um, end of 2018, I decided to do esports content, just to share with people on how to play Dota, as simple as that. So it was just me just wanting to share, just because of I feel that there can be better ways of understanding the game, because I feel that Dota is a very complex game. People don't really, people who play it might not really understand it. So I just decided like, okay, I just want to do content. I put it out there. Whether people watch it or not is a separate story. From creating that content on YouTube, I moved from platform to platform. From creating the content to YouTube, I started live streaming on Facebook, doing the same thing, also talking about the same game, also educating about the same game. And then at some point, somebody asked me that, hey, have you not considered like doing shoutcasting for esports? And I'm like, okay, I have not, but how do I do that? Long story short, that happened. Just took a leap of faith and did it. But I was still having a full-time job. So that was actually more of a hobby slash passion sort of thing for me. I just do it on the weekend. It's something that I fill my time on the weekend, or after work, I will come back and I'll fill my time whether I do content or anything about that, right? So that was just more of a hobby, of a passion, until the year 2020, when pandemic kickstart. When pandemic started, I actually lost my job. I lost my full-time job that time, due to the pandemic. I think for obvious reasons. That time, it was also so happened that I started working. So I started doing professional leagues. So when you kind of like do professional leagues, exposure is a little bit more. And from then onwards, I got lucky enough that it was job after job after job. Then I kind of like decided to like, okay, it is pandemic season anyway. For me to get back into a full-time job that I was comfortable in for more than 10 years. I don't know how am I going to get back in, because that time was pandemic season. You never know when it's going to recover at that point. So I thought like, okay, I'll just go all the way and see how it goes. And here I am. It wasn't a planned transition. It was just something that, in short, it wasn't a planned transition. It was something that I took as a hobby or as a passion, something on the side, something I just want to do it just because I like it. And I turned it into something, and it just took off, and I made it a thing that I do full time now. Just that. So I still believe that in esports, everything has to start with a passion. But I'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about careers in esports. But thank you for the question, Mickey. I'll go along. If you have questions, just put it in. We'll pause for some questions as we go along certain segments. So this is just to introduce on what we're going to cover next, what we will learn today, which is we're going to introduce about esports, broadcasting technology, esports technology, careers in esports. Now, some of you, especially people like Kevin, he has been in the behind the scenes when it comes to broadcasting. So he kind of knows, I'm sure he knows about the broadcast technology that I'm about to talk about, but we'll cover a little bit more later on. Okay, so Mickey was an ex-military. You started with development for America's Army. We use it as therapy for injured US and allied veterans. Esports have helped a lot of rehabilitation and have reduced suicide rates among veterans. Very interesting point. Thank you, Mickey, for sharing. I do believe, in fact, I have a recent observation on how gaming / esports, we're going to talk about the difference later on, has actually helped disabled people as well. And your segment of helping rehabilitation for army veterans is also something that gaming/esports is able to help as well. But that is a very interesting point. Okay, well, we can talk about that a little bit later if we have some time at the end. But thank you for the sharing, Mickey. Okay, so just to introduce about esports first, some of you said that okay, it's first time not knowing what esports is, so there's just some slight intro. So why I mentioned that esports and gaming is a little bit different, I will put gaming as the overarching tier. Gaming as the overarching tier, and that esports is a sub of gaming. So you're welcome, Mickey. Thank you for sharing your story as well. Esports is a sub of gaming. Right. So imagine it's like football itself. And then you have the World Cup. Yeah, World Cup is a sub of football. Something like that. World Cup is the activity of football. So esports is the activity of gaming. Yeah, gaming can also be like, oh, I play a single player game just on my own. For example, you play like a Final Fantasy, or you play like an Elden Ring, Game of the Year, by the way. You play like an Elden Ring, or you play like a Stray. It is not competitive. You're just playing it by your own. So that is not considered esports. And esports is a sport the moment it is competitive. Yeah, and it has a lot of history back into 1972. Some of you might notice Space Invaders down there is one of the earliest esports apparently. And there was tournaments for that. And the bottom right, StarCraft is what we call a real-time strategy game. If you're familiar with games like Age of Empires or even Command and Conquer, those are the kind of category of games. And these are some of the current popular esports titles or type of games or genres, I would say. So we have FPS, which is currently popular, Valorant, CSGO, and we have sports games as well. This is quite straightforward to understand for a lot of people. FIFA, and we have Pro Evolution Soccer, which PES. Some of the examples, yeah. And then we have card games as well. In fact, card games has made our nation proud, Hearthstone especially, in the year 2020, I believe. Yeah, what is it? Year 2020. But it was the last two SEA Games. We actually got a gold medalist from the game Hearthstone in that SEA Games 21 in Philippines. And the person who actually won gold for us in Malaysia, gold for Malaysia, is a professor in one of the universities around. So that was an eye opener as well for people to see that esports is not only about just playing games, but there is more towards esports. There's also a thought process, especially when it comes to gaming. And he has proven that him with a PhD background, actually lecturing in a university, is able to use esports as a platform as well to do something that he likes and make the nation proud. And we have quite a modern genre, what we call Battle Royale. So Battle Royale is everyone, or is everyone, whether you play as an individual or as a team, you drop into one map and then you become the last man standing. So this is rather popular right now. Racing games as well is an esports title. The son of Alex Yong is actually competing in e-racing. Yeah, Alex Yong, if anyone remembers, he is one of the F1 drivers in Malaysia, F1 or A1 drivers in Malaysia, and now his son is competing, but he's competing in e-racing, we call it. And then we also have fighting games. Some of you may know very popular titles like Tekken or Street Fighter. These are actually being competed. And there will be an upcoming Evo, which will be in Los Angeles, and now we are looking for our Malaysian representative as well. So we are going global in terms of esports in Malaysia. And this is a very esports concept as well. This is what we call a MOBA, or multiplayer online battle arena, whereby you pit like 5 versus 5 on a map, and then the objective is to is to secure the whatever you call it, right? Whether it's a ancient or a crystal at towards the end, basically destroying the enemy base. In other words, yeah. So just keep it short here. All right. But also to share about the esports audience growth. So this is data that I got from Newzoo. So Newzoo is a market research platform that provides this kind of data every year. So I managed to find this, and this is recent. So we have growth in terms of viewers and also esports enthusiasts, and there will be a projected growth as well up to 2025. But this is global data, of course. But then again, we are going towards the globalization. We're going towards globalization. In fact, from home, a lot of people are able to compete in multiple esports titles, even if it's held in other countries or even if it's held globally, people can just log in and all that. And even like viewers as well, like the whole world can watch anywhere. Everything is online and all that. So for us to look at numbers in terms of okay, from a global perspective, it is relevant as well. Of course, there will be some localization, but just for the illustration of our current topic today, is just to show that the year-on-year growth of potential in esports. Now, some of you may ask, like, okay, so how does esports earn money? So I'm just going to give the overarching view. This is the best data that I could get, again from Newzoo as well. But don't worry about the numbers. But just focus on the charts. That basically what it tells us is that majority of esports, or maybe about 70% of esports revenue, do come from sponsorship. And then the rest of it is media rights, merchandise and ticketing, publisher fees, and so on and so forth. So if you kind of think about this, right? If we look at this chart and we kind of think about this, we kind of move our same thought process into a different industry. For example, the football industry. I always like to compare with football industry because I think it is very, very similar, and there are a lot of things that there are a lot of things that are similar basically in the football industry. So if you look at like EPL, for example, ads all over. On the field, people create a digital ad, and then sometimes EPL is sponsored by so and so on, and then you have the boards. All these are sponsorship, and it takes up majority of revenue. Same goes in esports as well. When it comes to media rights for certain shows or whatever, when it comes to merchandising, teams will sell their merchandise, or personalities will sell their merchandise. And then your publisher is a little bit unique for esports because different than the footballing industry, you have FIFA as the world governance, but for esports, you don't really have a world governance for that because games are created by publishers and published, and only local governance can govern publishers. Like you cannot have like a world governance for a game publisher, so it doesn't work that way. So that's why it's a little bit different there. But I say game publisher meaning that game developers, people like Riot Games or Tencent, these are big notable, or Valve, these are big notable game developer names. So this is just basically to illustrate that where the revenue comes from. So it's not only about, so this is, we're talking about from a business sense, right? And it's not only about like, oh, playing games, you earn the prize money and that's it. Okay, but the big picture is this. Basically, esports can, aside from all the playing and all that, it is also a it is also, if I were to strip away some of the things, it is also a marketing or advertising platform as well. Same goes like if you watch any other show on TV, why is it created? Yes, it's created for entertainment. It's created for maybe to send a message and all that. But at the end of the day, why are there advertisements out there? It is because it is a platform to also, for brands, for example, to market whatever that they want to sell or whatever they want to put out. So something like that. It is the same thing. It's just that this is on a different platform, which is esports. Okay, so before I go further forward, any questions from the crowd? If any, I'm looking at the chat, so feel free. Okay, or if not, as we go along as well, feel free to type in your questions. It takes some time for everyone to digest for a bit. All right. Okay, I'll move on first. In the meantime. Okay, so here, what I'm about to share here is some of the basic stuff. We're going to start off with, because now we're going to jump into basically more of the technology stuff of esports. So there are two coverage of technologies. One is hardware and one is software, and then, or three coverage. And then we talk about in-game technologies later on. So it is wide. Okay, so when we talk about technologies that are related to esports, it's actually really wide. Whether you want to talk about like game development, or whether you want to talk about the game itself, or whether you want to talk about broadcasting technology. So actually, it's really, really wide. And I don't think it's possible for me to cover every single topic today. But if in any case anyone is interested, we can always keep in touch, and then we can always have a conversation separately about other technologies in esports. But for today, I'm going to focus on the broadcasting in esports, because I'm going to link that as well with some of the in-game stuff in esports that will be intertwined with the broadcasting topic. So these are actually some of the pointers that you yourself, even if you think that, oh, if I want to broadcast something, or for esports, or even if it's not for esports, oh, can I do it from my own bedroom? Yes, you actually can. I do it all the time. And I do it mostly by my own. So it is possible. And why I put broadcasting as a very important, as a topic today as well, because I believe that this topic is important. Yes, game development is important. Every other one is important as well, like without game development, you won't have the game itself to play in the first place. But we'll skip that, and then we'll come to broadcasting, and why broadcasting is also important. And I think this is a very important sharing as well for everyone, is that the one of the key points of having, of course, yes, you can run an esports event without a broadcast, and everyone can still have fun. You can still walk away with it. That's okay. But on a bigger picture, why is it important to broadcast? Why is it important to broadcast esports tournaments? Is because of exposure. It is because of exposure. So the difference is that if we put it into a different setting, right? It's like, okay, you create a film, okay, you create a movie. You're a movie director. You create a movie, but you choose to only show it to your own audience. Or maybe you don't show it at all. All right. Or you create a movie. When I say your audience, means that maybe your friends and family, you just play at home and that's it. Full stop, right? Those are the group of people that say. Or you create a movie and then you put it in the cinema, or you put it on TV, you put it on Netflix, you put it on Disney Plus, whatever. This is you basically broadcasting out your film, your movie. So, and then you get the eyeballs, and then people may like it, you get recognized, or people might want to put ads. If you put it on YouTube, for example, people might want to put ads onto your film, or YouTube itself goes in and then ads. Okay, you know how it works. So that's the thing of why broadcasting esports is important. Yes, you can still play it. You can still organize an event. You can still play with your friends, and then at the end of the day, yeah, you probably can post out a result, and that's it. But to broadcast it is also to get that recognition, to get that exposure, and also to grow. It's not like when you broadcast immediately you will get maybe monetary returns, or you get someone giving you a sponsorship amount, or whatever it is. It can be a growth step as well. to broadcast, to tell people that, hey, you know what, we are running this. This is our show. If you like it, feel free to support us in whatever way possible and so on as well. So it can be that. So hence why I put broadcasting as an important topic as well today. These are some of the these are some of the softwares. I wouldn't say simple. These are some of the production grade. Even if you talk about big productions, they also use the same thing as well. Of course, if on a personal basis, if you want to broadcast something, it can be from softwares like Omelette Arcade, which is a phone to live streaming platform software. But if you want a better grade or better quality, there are some free options, there are some paid options. Myself personally use OBS all the time. I find it no issue. Even big productions use OBS as well. It's an open source program. You guys can, whoever who's interested can also check it out. It's open source, it's free. Feel free to explore that. You can do a Google search on it. Streamlit OBS is free as well, but I think OBS is a little bit more open source, and it's better, in other words, for me personally. Some of the paid ones like XSplit and vMix, these are normally used in bigger productions because they will have multiple users for it. It's just the difference between, like, I would say OBS and vMix is just more on features. But both are usable and both has been used by big productions as well. So some of the broadcasting hardware, of course, these are okay. There, if I want to give an example, there'll be a really, really long list of some of the things. But this also depends on the scale as well. If you are from a bedroom scale, like this is a bedroom scale. What we see on screen right now, this is a bedroom scale. And if you want to think of like, okay, a studio scale, and then it just goes all the way up. But just to give a vision of like, okay, these are some of the bedroom scale things that if anyone wants to start off doing a broadcast from their own bedroom, these are some of the things here. So it's basically a microphone and camera. That's the most important thing. Of course, you need to have PCs and all that. But yeah, these are some of the accompanying hardware as well. And some of the hardware that, again, these are bedroom, but they also can be in advanced production settings, studios, for example. So, for example, like like dual PC setup, it can be dual PC, it can be triple PC, everything can be linked to a server. So these are some of the broadcasting hardware. I personally use a dual PC setup. So I have one PC that's dedicated to gaming and one PC that's dedicated to streaming. I connect it both with a capture card, which is point number 2, and then I broadcast it out. Of course, I can give a long explanation of why I do this and why it's an advantage, and why once you do this, once you have the luxury of having a dual PC, or then you wouldn't want to go back to a single PC. But that will be a separate topic altogether. A Stream Deck is good for production as well. So if you notice, like if in we'll share some examples later on. So those are basically hardware tools that actually help production to make better or smoother shows or easier shows, in other words. So these are some of the technologies, hardware technologies involved. Now, next I'm going to jump into like the in-game technologies. Okay, so these are esports tech. Now, again, I'm going to use shows as an example. I'm going to put aside like game development for now. If not, our topic will be very, very long and we can speak the whole day. But I'm just going to focus on the broadcast tech behind it. So like what you can see here, this is what we call a virtual set. And a virtual set is as easy to say is what you blend in with the green screen. I can share so I have this link here that I'll share with you guys, like how a virtual set using an Unreal Engine looks like. And it's not only like, okay, you slap a green screen there and then you just put people in and then the screen is just static. So allow me to share this. which is, I think I have to, oh, I can do this. So this is the part that I hope that it's easy for me to switch over. Okay. All right. Oh yeah, it's easy to switch. Okay, cool. Okay. All right. I hope everyone can see the other screen now. It's basically a live stream. So I'll show to everyone what I mean about this. Okay, just let it play for a bit. Don't worry about the audio in case there's no audio. Okay. All right. Okay, so just look at this part. Okay, yes, I know that's me, but that's not the point. Okay, the point is that I just wanted to show that, okay, so the entire movement, like what you saw, like from the lobby up until like this screen is where. So for us, physically, we are just in the green screen room. We just stand there. We are not moving at all. And then behind the scenes, they do their thing. So how they do their thing is using Unreal Engine. So they create all that. Whoever the Unreal Engine creator of that scene does it, and then it just moves around. And as you can see, it zooms in, all that perfect. It looks as if like you are walking through and you were taken through a tour of the office. It is a corporate league, so team. And that's why they create an office environment to take it through. And then you open up the lift and then you see us, and then and then the camera zooms in like that. So all that is done using Unreal Engine. There are a lot of ways that how Unreal Engine can be used. And this really depends on creativity as well. But the technology behind doing this has moved from just when you have a green screen, from just like, okay, like what I have right now is just me putting in a background, static, that's it. But it has moved from that kind of setting, just from the year 2020 up until I remember seeing Unreal Engine being used for the first time in this kind of in esports. If I'm not mistaken, in about year 2021. Basically, what's interesting is that the pandemic has changed the things, how we work, has really boosted and has really allowed people to think like, okay, turn everything digitally and boosted everyone in like all the virtual stuff, including like, oh, okay, all of a sudden Unreal Engine is being used in broadcasts and is being used really, really nicely, like just between like 2020 and also 2021. And then it just goes all the way. The moment it's released in 2021, yes, you can still revert back to whatever, to a simple setup. And that is really depending on sometimes the budget of the production, all that. But for bigger productions, they would just normally like go, okay, they're not turning back already. They just go all the way. Unreal Engine, and because it looks nice, something like that. So yeah, feel free to explore this as well. Okay, and this one, I find this a little bit, this one really interesting too. So this is related to API, or application programming interface. I think for those of you who have a software development background, you probably know what API is all about already. Oh, okay, sorry, my screen is not showing. Oh, thank you, Kevin. Hang on, I forgot to switch it back. Give me a second. Okay, it's a matter of switching, so it shouldn't need to. Okay, cool. I hope, yeah. So this is okay. So again, this is API, application programming interface. So in case anyone who has a software development background, you probably know what I'm talking about. So the things that I circle on screen, all right, these things that are circled on the in-game stat screen, they are actually not available if you were to launch your own game and if you were to run your own game by yourself. Those stats or those showings that are not available. You will probably see most of the other stuff like the map. You probably see like how much health you have, but that's about it. And on the right, the post-game stats, travel distance, how all these numbers come out, how many throwables used, basically how many grenades or how many smoke grenades or how much time you spend outside in the blue and all that. It's impossible for one person to calculate manually. So how is all this done? Is that it is done through API. It feeds out all this data, and all whoever on the back end needs to do is just to translate all the data that has been fed out into, whether it's automated or whether they want to do it manually from there. They want to like, oh, I want to put it in like nice graphics. However they prefer to do, that's up to them. But it is all generated from API. So I will show to you another YouTube example of how it works. And don't worry if this is the first time you look at this game and you don't know what's going on, but just keep an eye on some of the things that I circled, especially on the left screen, the in-game stats on and how it actually moves and how it is a live data. Okay, let me open this up. Okay, we're gonna watch the last few minutes of this round. It's called PUBG Mobile, and the examples. Why use? I'll share why I use an example of PUBG Mobile later on because I feel that it is one of the more complex games to code the API in. So hence there's a lot more example for me to show. In other words, now let's show with the screen. Okay. All right, everyone should be able to see my screen now. Okay, so just watch the last few minutes of the game. Keep your eye on some of the moving stats as I've circled around earlier. So we'll watch a little bit of this. Keep your eye on that, and then we'll switch it towards the end. Okay. All right. So if you notice that some of the moving graphics, like, okay, there was a chart on the right, and those charts are actually live data. And every time everyone gets eliminated, there will be a graphic in the middle of the screen. So those are actually, if you were to play the game by yourself, you wouldn't have all those graphics. So that is all programmed through API. So hence they're able to capture live data. And if you were, so if you take the last few moments and if you see like on top of here, on top of your screen, there will be this data. So this data is also live data. And it's not manually inputted, it's not automated. So as you see, if someone gets eliminated, you will see it go away. Yeah, there you go. Okay. All right. So in the interest of time, I'll just stop here. So the stats that I mentioned too, they are like, okay, so basically it's all here. So it's mostly just static images. So nothing much for me to show here. But this is also just to illustrate that how technology within esports is a little bit different. So sometimes they are game centric. I'll come back to my slides. All right. So remember that I showed earlier today that there are a lot of game titles. So it's actually game centric, and it also really depends on that game itself. Uh, Most games would have, I would say, a lot of game titles. A lot of popular game titles, they have open API. They open up the API for whoever who wants to do the broadcast. To like feel free, help yourself. Here's the API, do it however you want, and that's how they come up with this kind of stats, this kind of graphics and all that. What is unique about esports is that there needs to be an understanding of a particular game. So it does then the person is able, then only it has to know the game first. In other words, then only the rest will be able to come. So what kind of stats, for example, or what sort of scenes to show, and whether API is relevant for this thing, or you don't need API because it is already available. For example, like on the top left of the in-game stats, you see like there's like that red bar there. Those are actually like player health status. So irregardless of what it's already shown on screen. So you don't really need to program the API for it, for example. So these are, so basically it's understanding, is knowing the game first, and then you'll be able to reverse and say that, okay, what sort of APIs or technologies do I use to actually to run all these things, and whether it's necessary or not. So these are actually these are some of the things that are involved or related. So it may look, when you watch a show on, and when it's broadcasted, you'll be like, oh yeah, it is as it is. But actually the work behind it is that all those, they are all this programming that's happening behind the scenes. And that's all set up, of course, by the organizers. Okay, and all right. And also in-game observers, this is also part of a broadcast tech as well, that not many people will talk about. So people will always ask me, oh, what's an in-game observer? In other words, I would call it as an in-game cameraman. And some of my friends would tell me, when I try to explain in that way, some of my friends will be like, wait, how do you be a cameraman in game? Like how? Okay, so inside the game, there will be scenes that are shown to you. Excuse me. I wanted to pull out this link as well. There'll be scenes that are shown to you, and those scenes are determined by what we call in-game observers. So I have this video as well that I'd like to share with all of you on how it actually works. Okay. So this is behind the scenes of people working observer, as an observer. Here we go. All right. So just keep an eye on every time the scene changes, it is this group of people communicating and doing something. So I will explain later further. All right. So if you notice that every time the scene changes, the person in blue the one closest to the camera, he is what we call an observer director. He is the person that actually controls what scene that is being shown and what scene is being broadcasted out there. So the other groups are like, okay, they are also following scenes within the game, but he chooses what scene is to be shown to the broadcast. So this is also a form of technology that's being used. How do you link all those scenes to that one person, and then he decides how, right? Of course, there are multiple ways of doing that. I won't go too much into detail, but again, this is also linking that. And from a software perspective, from a hardware perspective as well, now you see him using a keyboard, but he can use different tools. He can use a Stream Deck. He can use a joystick even. That's why if we come back to our deck here, you can see this guy, he's actually using a joystick, but he's actually not playing the game. He's actually observing the game, and he's actually the one finding the right scenes to show to the audience. Why does he use a joystick? Well, maybe it's smoother to control the camera angles and all that, so it's shown to the broadcast. So these are some of the things that can be used. So there are multiple ways of doing this. So it's really up to the person and what he wants to use and so on and so forth. It's a choice from there on. But these are some of the technologies behind the scenes. And that's why we call them in-game observers or in-game cameraman. It's basically the same like your physical camera. But again, to operate as an in-game camera or in-game observer, there needs to be the knowledge or understanding of how the game works. So this will be very subjective to every game. Hence, that's why it's like, okay, someone who can observe, for example, a CSGO game may not be familiar observing a Dota game because the controls are different. The UI is different. The user interface, the UI is different. What is the build-up is different, but the build-up is more of a storytelling thing. But if we talk about technology, the user interface is different, the controls are different, API is different as well. So hence the unique thing about esports is that every game is different in its own way, and hence there needs to be that an understanding for every game in order to run. It's not like, okay, you know one game, you can do every game. There always needs to be a learning process for different game titles. Okay, this is actually my last slide already. We are also about 1 hour. This is my last slide. So by knowing that some of the tech in esports that I just shared earlier on, now we jump into the career in esports. So this is just a one slide thingy. So if we see here, we talk about hardware. It's relevant to what I've shown you earlier on, like, okay, whether it's your bedroom setup onto a big setup. Of course, if we talk about bedroom setup, you won't see big machines. But imagine that from the bedroom setup, you scale it up to a studio, you have 4K cameras or even 8K cameras nowadays, and then you have big lightings and all that. So those are all hardware. So companies like Big Machine, they are the one who supply all these, and mostly it's used for broadcasting. For media, we have media outlets, and I just give I localize as much as possible this time. In fact, all of them are local. Okay, it's just so that we see what is in our local industry. So media, we have a few, there's a few examples. My Game On is one of it, and My Game On is actually by Media Prima, and what they do is that they write about esports, social media posting. They basically share their media, in other words. So My Game On is just one of it. We have a couple of local ones as well, like IGNC. It's also by Media Prima, by the way. And then we have indie media as well, like arcade. We have What's the Meta. Those are more indie. If you want big corporate examples, Media Prima is currently running their own esports. I wouldn't say esports, their own gaming media. And then when it comes to operations, I think what's most relevant is when I talk about an esports team, and this is just one of it. Like Kevin is currently associated to Blitz Esports, which has a Valorant team. That team itself has their own analysts, or whether they have it or not, so up to the team. I just putting an example, but in a regular operations of a team operations, you will have an analyst. Think of it as a football team, right? You have a coach, you have an analyst, you have the manager, you have people doing business as well, because somebody needs to bring in the money, somebody needs to bring in the sponsorships, right? So you have all that under one. And this example is actually Crit VIP, it's one of the professional esports organization within Malaysia. And they have someone doing the business side, they have someone doing the managing side for the players, make sure that they're okay, make sure that they're performing, handle transfer of players and all that, exactly like a football industry. It's just that you move it into esports, exactly. And then there's also health science, MindGap. MindGap focuses on sports in general, so they also cover esports as well. And I've also worked with someone from MindGap, who this person from MindGap is also currently the sports psychologist for Selangor FC. He used to help a local esport. He used to have an esports organization called EVOS VIP, which I was also part of at some point. And you can see that even esports organizations are investing into the psychology, welfare of players, because at the end of the day, esports players, maybe they are not as physical, but they are really mentally challenged whenever they go for competitions, whenever it's a big tournament and all that. Mental health plays a really, really big role. I think one of the current examples as well is Team SMG. Team SMG is a team that's also owned by JJ Lin, very, very popular artist. That team has an esports psychologist. So, and the esports psychologist used to be working with MSN for the longest time, for more than 10 years, definitely, maybe up to 20 years as well. So the person has made the move into helping this esports organization, and we can see the investment basically of organizations into mental health and how important it is. And I do foresee this to grow. I predicted this to be a thing back in the year 2019, 2020, and it has reached to this stage whereby people are starting to talk about like, okay, mental health in esports. Soon, I predict that people will talk about nutrition in esports. That's why there's point number 2 there. Nutrition in esports, physical in esports. Even though it's not as physical as like your football, your badminton, your rugby and all that, but I believe that we'll reach some point. It's like, okay, there will be even a physiotherapist that comes and help esports players to get the best out of them. We will definitely reach that stage. We are already at the psychological stage. And coming to the right side, I think the more obvious ones, software, game development is definitely that thing. Box Studio is one of those amazing local game developers that creates games that, to me, they're really great, and they're actually being played a lot on the Western side. So Box Studios, the creators of Eximius, they will have a collaboration with the KBS agency soon to create a tournament locally. So that's coming in January as well. And then we have marketing. There'll be marketing agencies. EGG Network is one of it. They handle talents as well, talents related to esports. So whether if you might want to like host, for example, like host or just KOLs, key opinion leaders and all that. So these kind of agencies handle that. Events, IO Esports is just one of them. Again, this is just one example. Event organizers that I would say have that experience running esports event, because for you to run an esports event, you must know games in the first place. What are the rules? And then like some of the examples that we shared earlier on, the APIs, how to run certain games, what are the rules, terms and conditions of the game, and all that. How is the esports set up for those games and all that. So So there will be some other organizers like TGC, like VSPN, example. These are organizations that actually run a lot, of esports events. So they know that the moment you tell them, hey, can I do a Valorant tournament, for example, they know exactly like how it looks like and how the rule set and all that goes, and how, if you were to broadcast it, like what are the things that you can show, what are the APIs that you can use, and so on and so forth. So they already know all that. So these are very specialized organizers. And then even when it comes to legality, Richard W. Chambers, they do they're a law firm, and they do a lot of fintech stuff. They do a lot of sports stuff as well. And one of the segments that they are passionate about, Richard Wee is actually one of those people that I find really, really passionate when he talks about legality within esports. And he runs a legal firm, but at the same time, he's able to like put his focus into esports, to understand the esports scenes. And now he's like, okay, if anyone within the esports realm, like, oh, I have a contract dispute, legally I feel this is wrong and all that, then he would be, or I wouldn't say his law firm would be would have this specialization to actually assist in esports. Because again, esports is a new thing. Not many people may understand it, but his law firm has understood it and has talked about esports, the legal things in esports, and so on and so forth. So so these are already, he has been running it already. In the future, there could be more of this. Looking at how growth is, there will be more demand, there will be more need. So from a legal perspective, all this will also grow. So this is just a one-pager infographic to illustrate like some of the careers in esports. And just to summarize as well, if you look at this as a whole, this is an industry by itself. This is not only like, okay, esports players play game. If you notice that I didn't even put here, player. Yes, it is a career, but I think the focus is that, okay, besides just the obvious ones, like, okay, you become an esports player, become an esports athlete, for example, fine, right? But the whole ecosystem of esports will not be able to run if not because of all this, as you can see on screen. So yes, athlete is one, and I think that's pretty obvious. A lot of people say, yeah, there are a bunch of people playing games for a lot of money, fine. But this is also, but this actually makes up majority of that. Yeah, athletes is just a smaller function of esports. Of course, everything cannot function by its own. It needs to be intertwined. So all these comes together, yeah, in order to create the ecosystem. Just like how we see any other sporting event. Again, if you think about football, what do they have? They would probably have all these as well. If I were to replace football, they will worry about it. If I were to replace the badminton industry, if you watch a Thomas Cup, for example, or if you watch tennis, you watch a Wimbledon, they would have all these. Even they would have hardware because they need to put in all the equipment to broadcast, for example. They would have their own marketing to tell people, hey, Wimbledon is happening. Hey, EPL is happening. Hey, the finals of World Cup is as such, right? And then they would have their media to talk about sports. Oh, World Cup, Argentina versus France in the World Cup. They would, those teams have their own coaches. So those teams have their own psychologists. And those teams have their own lawyers. So you see, I just replace esports with anything else that is like in the sports industry. And you probably get the same outcome. So that's why I said that this is an industry by itself. It is just that it is a little bit more niche because there needs to be game knowledge involved. Okay, and I think I've kind of a little bit overshot, but this is actually my last slide. So yeah, thank you very much. In case anyone wants to keep in touch with me and wants to have further conversations, here's my email. Feel free to drop me an email as well. I might be a little bit busy sometimes, but I'll try to respond as quickly as possible. But I also like to take a few minutes to also open the floor to anyone who has any questions that you would like to find out, or you like to ask right now here about our topic today? Okay, if not, I will pass back to our MC.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Because of the time limit, I would like to request everyone, if you are convenient to turn on the camera, we would like to take a group photo with you. And while waiting for the camera, if you still have any question, please type it in the chat box. Oh yeah, Andrew, I will need your help to stop sharing, then we can take a group photo.
Oh, okay. Stop share. All right. There you go.
Okay. For participants, those if you're unable to turn on the camera, maybe you can give Andrew a thumbs up. So we get ready.
While we are doing that, I'm like trying to make the background nicer.
Anyone, you can turn on your camera. So I think we take a few shots.
Okay. Don't know why it's the other way around, but okay.
Yeah, no, it's slow. Okay now. Okay, we take a few. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, breathe down. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. If anything, feel free to email me.
If you have any question, you also can drop your question at the comment at the Facebook Live that we will pass to Andrew.
Oh, thank you, Mickey. Appreciate it.
Yes, so we would like to stop here, and I am posting the sign out link. Dear participants, you can fill up the feedback form and sign out form. And thank you to Andrew again. Thank you for your time and this insightful webinar. So dear all participants, please stay and join us for next webinar titled Towards Better User Interface at 11:30 a.m. today. Thank you all the participants, and thank you, Andrew.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Bye.